general, I'm hoping to obtain skills that allow me to care for a patient in whatever way I can. Trusting in the CRNA's role of protecting the public, I hope that I gain the 7 skills they require from RNs for public safety. However, I don't just want to be competent at these 7 skills, I want to be capable and able to adapt them based on what the situation calls. Beyond these 7 skills that offer me entry to practice, I want to gain skills that enable my ability for lifelong learning as well, as understanding how to guide my own knowledge will help once I become a nurse. I also hope that I can develop skills that support my own health as well, as maintaining my own health will indirectly ensure that other patients will receive safe, competent, and ethical care. Well, the cornerstones to me set a baseline that acknowledge the different importances of nursing. People may look at the cornerstones and set them in levels of importance, but to me they're all equally important. And I also see the cornerstones as being connected because a deficiency in one will negatively affect a different part of my nursing practice. So as I aspire to be the nurse that can promote health completely, I must understand all of them. And looking specifically at each one, health, healing, and wholeness teaches me how to provide patient-centered care, emphasizing the care is needed for multiple dimensions of health, not just medical intervention. And I want to be the kind of nurse that makes patients stay just a little bit better, and this cornerstone enables me to do that. I also want to be the kind of nurse that makes patients feel heard, and relationship practice supports that. As a nurse, I want to be someone patients and co-workers want to work with, and a person they know would take the shirt off their back for them. I understand people I work with will not like teamwork all the time, but relationship practice also teaches you how to guide certain relationships to make sure they are beneficial for the patient. In my career as a nurse, I also want to uphold professionalism. Professional identity ensures public safety by teaching knowledge of CRNA mandates. And I mean, anybody's reason for choosing nursing should be to help, and this cornerstone offers guidance on how to properly do that. In my profession, I want to be someone who can understand and address invisible barriers people might face. Intersectionality, context, and change helps me understand that. For example, when I went to the dentist a week ago, I overheard some minor frustration over an Indigenous lady that was late. Upon learning intersectionality, my first thought was, she looks stressed, and so she obviously cares about the appointment. What factors might she be facing that made her late? Without knowledge from this cornerstone, I would have never had this deeper thought that considered the social determinants. I honestly thought before starting nursing school that nurses were, in a way, just assistants to doctors. Along with this short-sighted thought, I believed nursing was heavily just medical intervention, based on shows like House or Grey's Anatomy. However, in my personal health and wholeness lecture, I've learned that care encompasses multiple areas of health, and that nurses have their own intervention and a duty to directly enable patients to achieve health. In lectures, I have also been introduced to professional standards. I've learned that there are codes and principles in place to ensure competent care. As a nurse, upholding professionalism means every decision made is based on the core ethical values and principles. However, I do recognize that values can conflict based on the scenarios. Therefore, I would like to gain more knowledge so I can handle these scenarios when they arrive. I hope to be a nurse who makes patients and coworkers' day better. In my future as a nurse, I want to communicate effectively, work well with others, make them feel welcome, heard, and respected, and stand up to inequalities in the workplace. I also want to be a nurse who views and uses all of Carper's ways of knowing equally. In my research, I have found nurses sometimes focus heavily on empirical knowledge and medical intervention while neglecting other ways of knowing that offer holistic care. I understand that each way of knowing is equally important, and I will strive to have a complete set of knowledge throughout my career. Furthermore, I don't always want to be using traditional methods for care throughout my career. I want to continue to learn new techniques that are more effective and provide better care for my patients. I hope in the future to become a registered nurse and seek higher education to become a nurse practitioner. Though I do wish to become a nurse practitioner, it is not for status. All healthcare providers are equally important, and with registered nurses being bedside, their jobs are often more demanding. I just find a future career as a nurse practitioner more interesting because I want to gain more knowledge about patient diagnosis. I'm actually thankful to become a registered nurse before I may become a nurse practitioner because I develop an understanding of the importance of both roles. Looking beyond hierarchical power in healthcare, I'm thankful to become a registered nurse before I may become a nurse practitioner because it gives a stronger foundation for holistic care. So as I work alongside more doctors, I can ensure the whole patient is treated, not just the medical diagnosis. The culture of healthcare contains a hierarchy. Whereas a nurse practitioner, I would have authority and power compared to those with less education. With the authority I would get from this hierarchy, I see it as an opportunity to empower others and dismantle this structure. People may believe hierarchies are important for safety of who performs what duties, but I see that as a lack in judgment. I've learned that when doing group work, levels of engagement depend on how important someone feels they are to the group. This is why I hope to use my role to empower patients, RNs, LPNs, and other healthcare providers. To promote the best care for patients, all parts of the healthcare team must understand they are equally important for the function. Self-reflection allows me to evaluate my skills and knowledge, which plays a crucial role in my lifelong learning. For example, using reflection on action, I can analyze past scenarios to understand how they can be better handled in the future. On a deeper level, self-reflection offers awareness of my biases, wrongdoings, and emotions. However, I recognize that reflection like this may often be uncomfortable. Vulnerable reflection, though, is what enhances holistic care for patients, as it allows me to develop empathetic and ethical skills. Therefore, I must acknowledge these in a mindful way and be non-judgmental, curious, and compassionate. Currently, my growth in post-secondary has been done through andragogy learning. My learning as a registered nurse will still encompass some aspects of andragogy where people will facilitate learning. However, if I want to achieve lifelong learning that ensures competency and patient satisfaction, I must use a hudagogy learning style. A hudagogy learning style requires me to be a reflective practitioner and constantly self-assess myself. Even if I'm providing competent care, I must constantly analyze areas in which I can improve. From there, I must develop a plan and use self-determined and directed learning to build new knowledge. As I've learned in school, the nursing profession is constantly evolving. Later in my career as a registered nurse or nurse practitioner, I understand based on age, people younger than me might not approach me as a teacher. Therefore, to stay competent as a nurse, I must direct my own learning to understand new technology or more efficient methods for care, while at the same time make sure coworkers know that I am always open to new information as a student. To maintain my fitness to practice, I must make sure that I am cognitively, physically, socially, and emotionally able to do any relevant task to the nursing practice, and not be dependent on any substances. This requires me to look after all dimensions of my health, be aware of my habits, and constantly be evaluating and monitoring my health. Monitoring any gaps is crucial because it helps identify areas for improvement. It is important that I realize improvements do not need to be made independently. Supports like medical intervention, counseling, and accommodations from the CRNA are examples of how help from others can support my fitness to practice. I can also independently monitor and improve my fitness to practice too. For example, to be cognitively fit, I must constantly be engaging in activities like workshops to gain more knowledge. In general, to ensure my fitness to practice, I must constantly be monitoring myself and seek areas for growth. This process of lifelong learning ensures professionalism and that my patients continue to receive safe, competent, compassionate, and ethical care. Nursing, specifically in Canada, has the highest burnout compared to any other profession. This is a result of things like limited resources, high patient acuity, and traumatic experiences. Therefore, I must build resiliency as a nurse so I can adapt to these stressors and maintain emotional well-being. With emotional well-being being crucial for public safety, I've started building coping and resiliency skills. More specifically, I've started incorporating MBSR techniques, which have positively impacted my life. MBSR techniques promote the idea of being open and curious. This allows me to look at stressors without acknowledging their potential negative effects, but rather how to fix it, engaging my critical thinking and promoting lifelong learning. In high-stress moments, as a nurse, I can properly analyze the situation, communicate with patients, and be compassionate, which promotes the health and wellness of patients and coworkers. To build more resiliency though, I do need to work on talking to others about my emotions. I learned this year that social exclusion, as a social determinant, harms someone's resiliency and their ability to cope. So I do want to work on gaining the confidence to use my social connections, as it will support my resiliency and emotional well-being.